Okay, as we go to the Chitas of the day, we're holding, today is Wednesday, we're holding the fourth reading of the portion of Vayishlach. We are holding on chapter 33, verse number 6. And the maidservants and their children drew near and prostrated themselves. Vatigash gam Leah and also Leah and her children came. Nigash Yosef, and then Yosef came with Rachel and Rachel. And they bowed down. Now she said, Nigash Yosef and Rachel. In all cases, the mothers drew near before the sons. But in Rachel, it happened the opposite. It says Joseph preceded her. He said, my mother's a beautiful woman. Perhaps the scoundrel set his eyes on her. I will stand in front of her and prevent him from gazing on her. Because of this deed, Joseph merited the blessing later on over the eye, meaning that he stood in front of Esav's eyes. He was given the blessing that he wouldn't have ayin hara, that nobody could give him an ayin hara, nobody would be able to have an evil eye on him, because he protected an evil eye. Verse number 8, he said, who is this whole, what is to you all this camp asher pagashti that I've found? He said, this is to find favor in my master's eye. Now she says, who is this whole camp that I have met, which is yours? That is to say, why is it yours? Simple meaning of the verse is that Esav asked about those who brought the gifts. He said, "What? Look at all this money. What are you handing me? All this gold and silver?" The Medrash interpretation that the Esav encountered groups of angels who were shoving him and his men and asking them, "To whom do you belong?" And they responded, "We belong to Esav." They, the angels, said to one another, "Hit them. Let's hit them. Okay, we'll beat them up." These men of Esau would say, "Leave them alone. He is Isaac's son." But the angel would pay no heed to him. And Esau's men then retorted, "He is Abraham's grandson." But they, the angels, did not pay heed to him. And when they said he's Jacob's brother, they said, "If so, he's ours." And they stopped to bother them. So they had to ultimately, Esau's whole 400 men had to concede that they're not out to come to war with Yaakov because he is the brother. So Esav said, "Yesh li Rav." Yaakov said, take whatever you want. If you're looking for money, I'm giving you money. So here's all the money that you want. Be happy. Esav, have plenty, my brother. May let what is yours, let it remain yours. So here Rashi says, Kan hoidal abrachas, over here he acknowledged, and he said, let the blessings be yours. So Yaakov said, no, please, my master. Please, if you find pleasing in my eyes, please take the gift from my hand. Okay, no, you see, because I have seen your face. It says, I've seen the face of an angel, which you have accepted me. Over here, you see, he mentioned the word Elikim. So he translated it as an angel. Remember the Tanya of yesterday that the pasuk calls Elikim, which is God, also an angel. So we see that here. You see it again. I'll not say Milikena. She said, do not say this. Indeed, if you find favor, you shall take the gift from my hand. It is worthy and proper for you to accept my gift, because I've seen your face, and to me, this is tantamount to seeing the face of an angel. For I saw your prince's garden angel. Right, I fought with your angel. So not only I met you, I did meet your angel. I fought with him last night. And furthermore, you should take my gift because you have consented to forgive my offense. Why did Yaakov mention that he saw an angel? In order that he should fear him and say, he saw angels and he was saved. He saw not an angel, he saw my angel. And from now on, I will not be able to prevail against him. So Rashi just explains the next Rashi, Vatirtse'eni means that you reconciled with me, inspiously. So Rashi explains that wherever it says Vatirtse'eni is a concept of consolation, acceptance, reconciliation. Verse 11, Kachnaz berchasi ashuhuvalach, take my gift that I have given to you. Kichanani lekim, for God has favored me. V'chiyeshli koil, and I have everything. Vayifzer boy vayikach, and he prevailed upon him and he took. So Rashi says, take berchasi. Berchasi is my blessing. But the translation is menchasi, take my gift, which is it was given in an abundant an audience, and after intervals of not seeing a person, you give him berchasi. It's intended to be only as a greeting, and that's the instance of a bracha as an audience. So the Rashi brings down where berchasi is the concept of a gift. Ashahavalach, which I brought to you, you have no trouble, you had no trouble with it, but I have toiled to bring it. So I've worked hard for this gift. Please accept the gift from me. Learn to do etiquette. When somebody brings you a gift, you should not deny the gift. The person worked hard to get you a gift. You take the gift. Hanani, for God has favored me. So this is that next Rashi is a grammar. Let's go to the last one. V'chiyeshli koil, I have everything. All of my ancestors. I have everything. I have all my necessities, I mean. Esav, however, said, Yeshli rov. I have a lot. I have plenty. So that's the difference between Esav and Yaakov. Esav says, I don't want to give because I have plenty. Yaakov says, I have everything. And that's why the verse ends that he took a lot. Because when you have a lot, you want more. When you have everything, you don't need anything more. Verse 13, right? Verse 12. So there he said to him, let's travel together. Let's go together and I'll go alongside you. So that's it. Nasa, Timothy, to Shema, forgive, Slicha. I've forgiven you, so let's go together. Let's be brothers. Together, even with you. I'll do you a favor and I will lengthen my travel time and go slowly as you require. So he said, I'll go alongside you. Verse 13, so he said, my master, you know the children are tender, and the flock and the cattle which are raising the young depend upon me. If I'm going to push them, override them, all the flock will die. So you go ahead. The sheep and the cattle which raising their young depend upon me. Lead them slowly. Raising their young. But they tire them on the road by running, all the flock will die. And therefore, please let my master go on. And I will move at my own pace, according to the pace of my work. Which is before me. To the pace of the children, until I come to my master in Seir. So Rashi says, please do not lengthen the days of your traveling. Why would you want to schlep with me? Go ahead according to your speed, even if you will distance yourself from me. That's and Halalash says until is the okay, it's grammarly iti. Iti is my slow pace, a term denoting gentleness. L'regel hamalacha, according to the work, according to the need made by the pace of the feet of the work of the cattle. I am obligated to leave. L'regel hayeladim, according to the pace of the children, according to their feet, how fast they can work. until I come to the master in Seir. He told him of a longer journey. Although he intended to only go as far as Sukkot, he said to himself, if he intended to harm me, he will wait until I come to him. But he didn't go to Seir. He never went to Seir. So when will he go? When are you going to go to Seir? Days of Mashiach. As it says in Avadia, and the saviors shall ascend to Mount Zion to judge the mountain of Esav. So that Yaakov Avinu over here prophesied that one day we will get to Seir and we will transform Esav. Medrash Agada, Rashi ends off in the Medrash. There are many, many beautiful interpretations to this whole story. And the Chassidus also has many beautiful interpretations that Yaakov didn't want to travel with Esav, and he wanted him to go on ahead without him. He said to Esav, let me leave some of my people with you. So why are you doing this? Why should you not do me a favor that I do not need? I don't need you. I don't need to have any help with your people. And now you shall not pay me any reward. Esav went home to Seir. Rashi says Esav went home alone. For 400 men slipped away one by one. They all ran away. Where did the Holy One, blessed be He, recompense them in the days of David? It said none of them escaped except 400 young men who rode on the camels. So these 400 men must have been descendants of these 400 guys who came with Esav, and realizing that they came with the wrong guy, slowly slipped away from Esav. Yaakov nasa Sukkos, and Yaakov traveled south to Sukkos. Even Bayis, and he built their house. Uluknei also Sukkos, and to his cattle he made Sukkos, which is booths. Alkein shekem shara makim, alkein kara shem hamakim, and that's why they call the place Sukkos. He built their house. He stayed there for 18 months. Summer, winter, and summer. Sukkot denotes summer. A house denotes winter. And again, Sukkot denotes summer. So that's where he stayed there for 3 seasons, which is 18 months. And then Yaakov came safely to the city of Shechem. Hashem Canaan, to the land of Canaan. When he came from Padan Aram, and he camped before the city. So that's just Shalem. He came whole, unimpaired, begufay, with his body. Shenitzah mitzlasei, for he was cured from his limp. Shalem b'mamayne, he came whole with his money. He did not lose anything because an entire gift is given Esav. Shalem b'teirasei, he came whole with his Torah. He had not forgotten any of the studies in Lavan's house. He came complete. Shechem, he came to the city of Shechem, similar until he came to Shechem. When he came from Padan Aram, like a person who says to his companion, so and so came out from between the teeth of a lion and returned safely. Here too, he came out from Padan Aram, from Lavan and Esav, and he came out, who came to attack him on the way. So he survived the teeth of the lions. Verse 19. And he brought the part of the field where he pitched his tent, the son of Chamer, the son of Chamer, the father of Shechem, for 100 kesises, kshita. So he bought a property there in Shechem, He bought it. This coin is known as a ma. Rabbi Akiva said, when I traveled to the city by sea, they called it ma kesita. Rendered a churpan, a good, acceptable everywhere. Kesita. So the patriarchs in general, they carried a coin that was accepted in all countries. They always had a coin that was valuable because they were travelers. Yatziv Shamas Beach, and he erected there an altar. Vayikra Lo El Elokei Yisrael, and he named it God is the God of Israel. So Rashi says, you might read the verse, you might say he called the Mizbeach. Not that the altar is called the God of Israel. But since the Holy One, blessed be, had been with him and saved him, he named the altar because of the miracle. In order to praise God, he mentioned when it's called out as his name, that is to say, he who is God, that he is the Holy One, blessed be he, is a God to me, whose name is Israel. We signed something similar in the contentation of Moshe Rabbeinu, and he named it in an Hashem Nisi. Not that the altar was called Hashem, because of the miracle he named the altar thus, to mention the praise of the Holy One, blessed be he. The Lord is my miracle. Rabbis Megillah interpreted to mean that the Holy One, blessed be he, called Jacob God, rendering that the God of Israel, that God of Israel called him God. The words of the Torah is like a hammer that shatters a rock. They divide into many meanings, but I've come to establish the simple meaning of the verse. So this is in general, the Rashi mentions this many times, the statement of Yirmiyahu, Jeremiah, the words of the Torah are like a hammer that shatters a rock to break the ear. And you can learn it many different ways. Because how do you learn Vayikra Loi? And he called it. Vayikra Loi, he called the Matseva. It means that he wanted to make a monument that would always remind everybody that there's a God in the world. But he didn't call a stone the God of Israel. It's almost sounds like a Vayikra Loi El Elokei Yisrael. He called it. So to be careful the way you read the verse. That's all Rashi is saying. And Rashi says that this verse says in many interpretations, because it's a question, how do you write those words? Vayikra Loi, and he called it. He named it. Why would you name a stone God? So therefore Rashi makes it important that the Torah is written to break the ear. Now go and interpret it. And Rashi says, I'm just interpreting it simple. The simple meaning doesn't mean he called a stone. He called out in the name of God, and that the stone would remind everybody that there's a God in the world, remind him that there's a God in the world that protects him. That completes the Chumash of the day. We now go to the Tanya of the day. And we start essay number 5. Alter Rebbe continues from essay number 4, and he continues the power of a mitzvah and the power of the law of the mitzvah, to know the law, the basic law of the mitzvah. So the Alter Rebbe says, let us understand how this applies to the detailed laws that are shrichei klal. What do we do with laws that never occurred at all? There are laws that would never occurred, like the law of a Ben Seder murder. The Gemara says is a law that never occurred. And there are laws in the Torah that maybe never occurred. It was never actually existed. And what about the laws that were in the past, but they will never be in the future? They will not be in the future. For example, the detailed laws of Pigel. Pigel is a law in the Torah that if you have in mind when you bring a sacrifice for the wrong day or the wrong time, it's called Pigel. So it means it's abomination. It's disgusting. Pigel is disgusting. So it's disgusting to God that you would do this, and now the animal becomes unfit to bring as a sacrifice. If I had in mind, so when Mashiach comes, you're not going to have such things in mind. Chas v'shalom, nobody's going to have in mind to do such a thing. Times even the time of Midrash, a person still had a Yetzer Hara to have in mind to do such a thing. When Mashiach comes, you're not going to have in mind such things. So therefore, why learn the laws of Pigel? Why would you learn today the laws of Pigel when it's never going to happen again? Right? We won't have a Yetzer Hara when Mashiach comes. So therefore, why you need to have a lot of these laws that we know that it's not going to happen, right? Because that's the whole concept. So why learn it today? It is known that every prohibited thing in the world has a source and a root in the life of klipot. I mean that there is a concept in the world that is there right now. This concept. That's why it's a concept in the Torah. Otherwise, it could not exist in the world without the flow from above, meaning without receiving vitality from a spiritual source. This was one of the things that Yosef did. Mesalsel b'sarei. He crinkled his hair. And the Torah talks about that negatively about Yosef. Here was a man, he's busy with his hair. A righteous individual, he's busy combing his hair. So Mesalsel, he crinkles his hair. So it's a negative thing for Yosef, for example. And that's why the Torah, we'll get up to that story in a couple of weeks, that Yosef brought about Sodas upon himself because he was busy with his hair, seemingly. And this is all concepts in Kabbalah, self-understood, Gavna, and like that, receives his life force at the moment from spiritual chambers of Klippus, as explained in Zohar. So everything has a source above. Everything, whether it's good or bad, because everything has to have an existence, and its existence needs to come from a spiritual source. Therefore, even particular prohibitions that never became a reality. So even if there's a law that never happened in this physical world, or never will happen, nevertheless, the root of this law is in existence. The Poyo Mamish, in a reality, in the chambers of klipot, which is coverings, in the chambers of coverings, in the chambers of darkness. So even the particular instance, not possible, it's possible. That'll never did and never will actually occur. For example, errors and unwitting deep misdeeds, like when tithing erroneously, calling the 9th sheep the 10th, and the like. All these kind of laws in the Torah, that a person makes these mistakes and potentially makes these mistakes and makes it unintentional. The kind of eventually that cannot be deliberate and thereby cause klippos to light upon it, because it's never going to happen. Mashiach comes to do this deliberately. Possibly in these circumstances, it does not even exist in the chambers of klippos. How then does it possess a source root in the klippos? So note inserted by the Tzemach Tzedek of blessed memory. It appears to me that the Alter Rebbe uses the word possible, implying uncertainty. The Tzemach Tzedek was the Alter Rebbe's grandson. This is the whole story. He wrote Agos, and he wrote notes on the Tanya of his grandfather. and was told to put it in. Alter Rebbe came to him in a dream after he passed away and said, you should put it into the Tanya. And he didn't want it until his children had the same dream. And then he put it into the Tanya. After all his children, sons, the Tzemach Tzedek, the Lubavitch Rebbe's sons had the same dream. And then they put it in Tanya. So here is one of his agos, his notes on his grandfather. This chapter, the Alter Rebbe says it could be possibly, implying uncertainty because unwitting errors derive from Noiga. It may therefore be that their origin is in the chambers of Noiga. So the Alter Rebbe was questioning. It was possible. He was uncertain, so to say, and therefore. Tzemach Tzedek was wondering how the Alter Rebbe was uncertain about something. That wasn't possible. Alter Rebbe knew the channels and the byways of the heaven, of the spiritual world. And what was his question on it? The Alter Rebbe had a question. What was happening in the spiritual worlds? In any event, it does exist. If not a klippus, then at least in keeping in mind the distinction between the sacred and the profane. In the supreme wisdom that is issued and descends into in this detail to Moshe Rabbeinu on Mount Sinai. So the Alter Rebbe says, even though maybe this concept is not found, but it is found in wisdom. It is found. This negative concept, this klippa, might not be found in the chambers of klippas, maybe. That's where someone says, how is Alter Rebbe said maybe, but okay. But it's surely found in the wisdom of that world. As the expression says, anything that a student will one day innovate was taught by Moshe Rabbeinu. So in the wisdom of Moshe Rabbeinu, everything is found. Likewise, the detailed queries, the questions of Rabbi Yirmiyah, who posed so many hypothetical possibilities that he was escorted from the house of study. It's a whole Gemara. Gemara talks about there was a sage Rabbi Yirmiyah who used to ask questions. They had to throw him out of the building because it was just bothering everybody. So he asked millions of questions. What would be? So they threw him out. And the question is, his questions were valid. But they didn't want at that time in the house of study, they didn't want to deal with questions. They were dealing with law and they hypothetical questions. So they were asking, stop bothering us with hypothetical questions. We're dealing with the law. We don't want to deal with hypothetical questions. But Rabbi Yirmiyah didn't want to let go. So, not that they disagree that there's a capability of hypothetical questions. So they threw him out of the synagogue, out of the house of study. So, but still, no. What about these hypothetical questions? What do you do with Rabbi Yirmiyah's hypothetical questions? Where are these hypothetical questions? Nobody ever answered it because they just threw them out. So the Alter Rebbe says these hypothetical questions also have their space in the wisdom of Moshe Rabbeinu. They have their place, even though it has nothing to do with the law. But these hypothetical questions that you're trying to challenge the law, has its place. So even though the hypothetical, obviously, these queries involve situations that were entirely unlikely to ever take place, and that's why he does to ask hypothetical questions that would never happen. As the detailed queries, such as she wrapped him in the chapter of Chulin, in chapter 4 of Chulin, the question discussed there is whatever firstborn animal be considered to have directly opened the womb and hence be sanctified is either of two hypothetical cases. According to Rashi, the question of whatever if a person assists in the birth entirely wraps up the animal as it's born. According to Bentan, the question involves a multiple birth, the cow being born together with the firstborn bull and wrapped itself completely around it, something extremely unlikely to even occur. Nevertheless, all these detailed queries are given to Mount Sinai. We have all these questions, the Gemara. So all these questions, the Gemara, and sometimes the Gemara gets very tedious and asks all these questions that maybe never happen, never will happen. But they come from the wisdom of Moshe Rabbeinu, the whole part of Torah. So hypothetical, no question is a stupid question in Torah. No question is a question that is not part of Torah. Every question, whether it's a question that will happen, whether it's a question that won't happen, it's not important. It's all part of Torah, even though it's a question that's hypothetical and maybe never will happen. Because when it comes from the wisdom, wisdom has unlimited. So it's no limit to wisdom. When it comes to understanding, now you have limitations. And therefore, when it comes to law, understanding the law, there's limitations. You're gonna start driving yourself crazy. You're never gonna know the law. You always can ask why. But in the realm of wisdom, that's unlimited. And there always can be the why or how or the hypothetical question. So the Torah is infinite, since it's infinite is actually clothed within it, and therefore the Torah is infinite. And therefore the hypothetical is also part of Torah. And so to every particular law is a gate drawn from the supreme wisdom. So therefore, every law comes from the wisdom of God. Whether it's going to happen or not, it's not important. Whether it's going to happen or not is only important concerning the law. And if it's not going to happen, I don't need to know what to do. But if I'm looking for wisdom, it's not important to me if it's going to happen or not. The Yosef Baitum Luvishba found a daughter and enclosed it. So Chachma, the father, founded Malchus, the daughter. Malchus is the mouth, which we call the oral Torah. Chachma then is enclosed in the law of the oral Torah. And they are found in their source, in the Malchus of the world of Atzilus. So therefore, every word of the Torah comes from the Malchus of the world of emanation, which Chachma, the wisdom of the world of emanation, clothes itself in that Malchus of the world of emanation, which ultimately comes in the verse or the law. And therefore, it's not important to me if the law is going to happen or not. It's important to me, the Chachma, the wisdom of God, which is infinite. So if I'm looking for God, which is infinite, then I don't care if it's going to happen. I'm looking for the infinite concept. I'm not looking for the finite aspect in the law. If I'm looking for the finite aspect in the law, then I need to worry. This cannot happen. It's not practical. It's hypothetical. It's a law that's hypothetical. But if I'm looking for the godliness in the law, nothing hypothetical by God. Everything is possible by God. And ultimately, this wisdom of God clothes itself in the Chachma and in the Malchus of Yitzbriya and Yitzira until it comes down to this world. Now, the Rebbe will now conclude by explaining how this brings about refinement of the sparks. So ultimately, not only you're connecting to the wisdom of God, but by connecting to the wisdom of God, you're refining all the worlds. It's known that the nature of Klippa is the covering, the darkness, the hiddenness, derives from the hinder part of the 10 spheres of holiness. And more precisely from the garments of the 10 sfirot of Bri Yitzir Asiyah. And more precisely, the Yitzir of Asiyah Rav B'Klippa, they derive the nature from the garments of Yitzir Asiyah that are intermingled with Klippas. That means the evil of the Klippas in the world of Yitzira and Asiyah are intermingled with the good, ultimately. As it's known. So in Atzilus, in the world of emanation, they don't have an existence. But when it comes down to the world of creation, the world of formation, ultimately the world of action, over there, the Klippa, sometimes you don't see the darkness. Over there, you don't see the Klippa because they're intermingled with the good. So therefore, they can receive they can receive the Yanika. They can receive the life force because you can't dissect it. Sometimes so intermingled, you can't dissect it. So how are you going to dissect it? How are you going to rectify the Klippas in the world of Yitzira and Asiyah? How are we going to rectify it? That's by learning the halacha. And through learning, study of the law of the Torah, in speech and in thought, and that's how we're going to separate it in the world of Bria, Yitzir, and Asiyah. That's when we this in right, but they separate. We separated Makadusha from the holiness. So we separate through us learning Torah, halacha, especially halacha, through us learning law in this world. Whether law is practical or impractical, that has nothing to do. We're not here for the concept of knowing what to do. We're here for the concept of knowing what God's law is. And by knowing God's law and understanding God's law, we automatically, not only we connect to the wisdom of God, which is alone an unbelievable thing, but through connecting to the wisdom of God, we rectify the spiritual worlds. As it brought down in the Zohar, to separate the klippos from the holiness through Torah study. How does Torah study accomplish separation, refinement of klippos? When the issue of supernal wisdom originally in the Torah was unable to affect it. How do we do that? And was unable to affect this. And it came about in a mixture of good and evil in the world of Yitzhak. If the Torah, if it hasn't happened through Atzilus, how do we do it? Through us learning Torah. This is according to what's known, study the teaching of the Gemara. The sages say, why was the land of Israel destroyed? And one of the answers were given. Why did Jews go into exile? For they did not recite the blessing of the Torah before the Torah study. What does that mean? They didn't make the blessing. They didn't make the blessing. Too lazy to make a blessing over the Torah. The inner meaning is that the people of those times failed to draw down the infinite light into their study of the Torah. For the Baruch, bracha, is a root word in the holy tongue. It means blessing. It signifies drawing down. Evil cannot be separated from good by Torah alone. It must be studied in a proper manner. So that was the problem. The problem was it wasn't studied in a proper manner. And because it wasn't studied in a proper manner, it didn't come down. Because that was the purpose. Purpose was to bring down infinite God into the world. And they couldn't account, for some reason, they didn't do that. Is bad. And why do you want to bring down the wisdom of God? Because when the wisdom of God rectifies everything. So through the wisdom of God, everything is rectified. And that's the bracha. The bracha, the blessing of God, is the bridge. It also comes to the bricha. A bricha is a bridge. So the bracha is the bridge that brings down the wisdom of God to the world. So that's why the Gemara says they did not do the bracha. They did not do the blessing. They didn't do the bridge. And because they didn't do the bridge, they didn't bring down, they didn't rectify all the worlds and brought about a churban, brought about destruction in the world. This light is drawn down into supreme wisdom by the supernal likeness of man, who also occupied these laws from above. When man studies Torah below, his source is about engaging, his source above engages in Torah study as well. The source of Nukva of Zah, of Bria, and Yitzir Asiyah. We can understand the requirement that every nefesh, ruach, and neshama, every nefesh, ruach, and neshama, every person has to complete the 613 commandments in thought, speech, and deed. Sheheim prate halachas, meaning the detail of the law. For thought and speech refers to the Torah of these details. V'tzichas lavi b'gilgul. You might have to come down into a reincarnation. Lahashlam ha'Torah, to complete the Torah. Pshat, remes, drush l'say. In its simple meaning, in its illusion, and its homiletic and its secret. Why? Because we need to sort out and refine all that pertain to them in the 288 sparks that constitutes the complete structure of man. Hayag Bechinas close about the 613 categories, general and particular, that relate to each soul. So they didn't do that, and we have to do that now for them. We have to do that. That's why it says, whoever didn't build the base of Mikdash in his time, like as if he destroyed it. So we need to accomplish that. We need to make the bracha. We need to make the bracha. When we make the bracha, we need to do it for the sake of bringing God to the world. That's what we need to learn Chassidus. Because Chassidus teaches us that it's important that we do the mitzvah for God. And we don't do the mitzvah only. So they were very religious Jews, the Gemara says. They learned Torah, but they didn't, for some reason, do it. They did it for their own sake. They didn't do it for the sake of HaKadosh Baruch. They didn't do it. And therefore, if it was not important to them, they didn't learn it. Today, we learn everything. Why? Because we want to bring God to the world. And by bringing God to the world, it automatically rectifies, the Chachma rectifies all the worlds. Not only this physical world, but even the upper world, the spiritual worlds. My friends, when Mashiach comes, in time to come, Mashiach comes, when the refinement will be over, then it will only be in the form of doing good. The Rebbe says we're in that time where we have to be in Asay Tov. The Rebbe felt we're in the times of Mashiach already. We're in the beginnings, and we're in the mode of that concept, and therefore our avoid is in Asay Tov. In more the avoid of doing good. To elevate our nefesh, ruach, neshama ever higher and higher. And also regard to even the study of the 365 negative commandments, to elevate them to the source in the holy attributes of severity. Also, even in negative, to learn them in the spiritual sense of going higher and higher. To take all the negative, even the negatives of Torah, and to sweeten them with kindness. And Amach mitzvahs asay with the 248 pasuk and l'cholam yach, to bring them one together, to make everything positive, to make everything chesed, kindness, because that the avodah of this generation, and for surely the avodah of the base of the Jews in time of Mashiach. It will all be chesed. It will all be sweet. So therefore, even the negative commandments are going to be. We're not going to, even though we're not going to do the negative commandments when Mashiach comes. So why would you need to have? Maybe there will be 248 positive commandments. No, they're going to be negative commandments, but it will not be negative. We're going to see the positive. They'll all become positive, so to say. And that's through the sweetening of the negative. Therefore, the Torah is forever eternal. Whether, in all detail, whether we do the mitzvah, we don't do the mitzvah, it's still there. So even when Mashiach comes, we might not do. We won't need to do it. We don't need it to be told about Avedas because we're not going to want to do an Aveda. So why do we need it to be told about a sin when we're not going to want to do it? Because still it's there. Because every negative is really positive. Sheheim prate halachas Arsal said for even the individual laws of the 365 prohibitions are branches of the Torah's general statement. And therefore they are in the spiritual sense still there. And all of them have the source of the 5 holy attributes of severity. Just as the 365 prohibitions themselves, as they are above. In a state of blood that initiates the organs of the vessels of Zah, so they ultimately come down a negative thing in this world, but ultimately they're still there in the spiritual sense that they come from a very high place. So they will continue to be, but now they come down in this world as something negative. And Mitzvah Mashiach comes, they will come down as something positive because they are positive. And that's the whole thing of the sweetening of severity. That completes the Tanya of the day. Beautiful Tanya. Today is the 13th day of the month, my friends. 13th day of the month. And the Tillim of the day is 69, 70, 71. So 69, 70, and 71. And you would have done the chitas of the day. Have a wonderful, beautiful, happy, wonderful day. See you all tomorrow at 8 a.m. We'll continue the chitas of the day.